All right, so some of you will have already seen this, but we're going to be looking at a debate that happened on the Joe Rogan Experience between Joe Rogan and Matt Walsh, talking about same-sex marriage. So just going to watch it and engage with this and see what we might be able to learn from it.
I don't think it has any effect whatsoever on a straight couple if a gay couple decides that they want to make it official. And that's what it is to them. It gives them a feeling that they're accepted and appreciated and that they're not discriminated against because they happen to be homosexual.
So, well, what you're articulating to me is the damage that's done by gay marriage to the institution of marriage.
But how is it done? How is that in any way damaged straight people?
Because we are making the institution meaningless.
But it's not meaningless.
Well, but
it's very meaningful to the people that have it.
Subjective, symbolic, and it's about your own personal feelings.
Isn't it, though?
Well, no, I would say that it's not.
Well, if it's not subjective and it's not symbolic,
it codifies and protects and gives a name to a thing that actually exists, which are man, woman couples creating people, creating babies,
but not always.
So that's interesting. And as I think about it, I think Matt Walsh, in many ways, and it's hard to criticize somebody, that these scenarios are really, really difficult and things happen fast. He's trying to advocate against marriage as having to do with just our subjective feelings, which of course he's right about. We as Christians believe that there's something deeper, more objective, something God-given going on. It seems like, at least at this point, he's trying to do it without bringing God into the situation. And maybe that's because Joe Rogan is non-religious and Walsh wants to make a case that would still convince non-religious people. But as soon as he mentioned the children piece, also that's going to put him into trouble. Because Joe Rogan immediately brings up not everybody does have children. And so marriage, while the normative experience in marriage, and one of the great purposes of marriage is for children to be a part of the equation, they're not always, and that doesn't invalidate the marriage with them not being a part of it.
Right, but that's still the nature of the union. So,
but what are the percentage of people today that are married that don't have children? I bet it's pretty high amongst heterosexuals.
Probably.
Is there something wrong with that?
I think there is something wrong with that. I think there is something wrong with getting married and saying, oh, we're not going to have any kids at all.
But why is there something wrong with that if someone's personal choice? Well, why is it wrong that two people are like, I am deeply committed to work and I don't want to sacrifice any of my career and I don't want to ruin a kid because I'm constantly at the office, but that's where I get deep satisfaction and that's what I'm focused on.
It is a personal choice.
Right, but shouldn't people be allowed to make those personal choices? Like, isn't that a fundamental aspect of what it means to be American, to have that freedom?
Well, right, yeah, but right now we're not talking about what people are allowed to do. I'm not saying
we're talking about marriage, gay marriage.
Okay, we were just discussing straight couples who choose not to have kids.
That's also a personal freedom issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that straight couples should be legally required to have kids, but if you're asking me, do I think it's the right choice to just get married and choose not to have kids ever? I do not think that that's the right choice. It's their choice, but people can make choices that are wrong.
The thing is, what I'm saying is these people that are married that don't have children, they're not harming anyone. They're not harming these unborn children that they never have. They're not harming anyone, and it doesn't affect your relationship with your family and your marriage at all.
Yeah, but I'm also not.
So again, it's interesting. It's because God is not a part of this discussion. And I can't remember. I remember watching this a while ago, so I'm not sure if Matt at any point does bring that in. There's no way Matt Walsh is going to win this debate. There's no way he's going to convince somebody, I think, strictly from a more libertarian idea. Maybe somebody could. Maybe somebody could make an appeal just in general to say this is the best way to be human is to not be selfish. I mean, when Joe Rogan was saying the thing earlier about somebody, I work all the time, I don't want to ruin a kid, that in a much bigger discussion, that should not go unchallenged to say, if your life is set up to where you would ruin a kid, you got to adjust your life. I'll hear people frequently saying, like, I'm not going to have kids because I just know I'm very selfish. And then sort of looking at that as if that's that's now a valid way to go through life. Now, if you're really selfish, you got to cut that out. That's a problem. That's a vice that you need to get past. But I don't think that there's a way on the common grace perspective here in this situation that you can win. And I know Matt Walsh and some of the other Daily Wire guys, there are times where on abortion or on something like this with same-sex marriage, they try to talk about it in a way that they don't bring religion into it. And I understand why they do it. I think this is an example where it gets very, very difficult to advocate for certain things without bringing into it the idea that we have a creator who has given us a purpose.
The unborn children that they never have, they're not harming anyone. And it doesn't affect your relationship with your family and your marriage at all.
Yeah, but
and
I'm not imposing myself on them or harming them by answering a question about
right.
how I feel about their choices.
Right, but nor are gay people doing that to you.
I think the harm comes from, on a societal level, when we start breaking down these basic central institutions like the institution of the family and of marriage. That's where the harm comes from. And the more that people believe, the more that we build a society where it's believed that marriage is objectively meaningless, right? It's entirely subjective. It's just about making you feel better. The more that we build a society like that, I think that's where the harm comes in. The worse it is, and people are going to reject marriage, and that means more. Fewer kids are being born. Also, more kids are being born in a context where they don't have that stable family structure. So the harm definitely comes. It may not be this immediate, connect the dots thing, but and we can already see that.
Yeah, I think Walsh does make some good points at the end, and once again, he's approaching this without bringing God into the situation, and I feel like I understand where he is, and there may even be a time and place to look to do that. So he's making the case that if marriage just sort of becomes choose your own adventure, then it ends up as something, first of all, there's going to be a lot more divorce, because if marriage is just about me and I'm not happy in my marriage, why would I stay in my marriage? And that does bring harm to kids. Like there's no statistical doubt about that rampant divorce brings a lot of harm to the kids who are children of divorce. And beyond that, the thing for us as believers that we get to look at is we get to say marriage is something that was given to us. It wasn't our idea. It's not something that we came up with and that God said, hey, this is a good idea. Here are the rules about how you do this. This was God's idea ultimately to be a reflection of Christ and the church. And so while there's a time to sort of talk to people about things from a more common grace perspective and just sort of try to bring that up, we as believers need to not divorce our beliefs about marriage and the sanctity of marriage from the Creator. Ultimately, if we get somebody who's non-religious or an atheist or whatever to agree with us on the merits of same-sex marriage, that's not nothing, because I think if as a society we said, hey, we're not going to outlaw that people can live together, but this is what we're calling marriage. What we're calling marriage is one man and one woman together for life. That would be good for society overall. That would have good societal benefits. It wouldn't ultimately save their souls. And so I think while there's people maybe making that case in the public sphere, for us as believers in Jesus, what we ultimately want is not for somebody to change their opinion on same-sex marriage. We want them to recognize that there's a God who loves them deeply, and there's a God that they are answerable to. And the reason that we as Christians have a different opinion about marriage than the common culture is because we believe that we're answerable to someone else. And we trust that someone else. We trust God, that his wisdom on all of this is way greater than our 21st century libertarian live and let live wisdom that's ruling the day.